Momo's childhood friend Jiji has come to stay with the Ayases. He explains that he needs Seiko's help with some strange phenomenon at his house. Hello and welcome to Dandadan episode 11, First Love. This episode covers chapters 28, 29, and 30, and this is the penultimate episode of season 1. Basically, there's one more episode to go and then we're done. And I'm kind of interested to see where they're going to end it, like how they're going to end season 1, because, well, I'll get into that later on. Let's just actually do the breakdown first. So we start off immediately where the last episode ended, where Jiji shows up and Akarun asks who is that, and Seiko explains that this is Jiji, Momo's childhood friend and her first crush. I feel like that was kind of messed up of Seiko to say that this was her first crush, because she hasn't thought about Jiji since they were childhood friends. So it seems more like she's kind of saying that to, I don't know, maybe possibly egg Akarun on, or just to hit him in the feels, because there's no reason to throw that in there. And Akarun thinks that Jiji's like, some cool athletic dude. And then we get to see how Jiji is, and he is super wacky and doing stupid poses and telling lame jokes, and he's very, very cringy. And this is why I don't care for Jiji all that much. I mentioned it in the last episode that I'm not the biggest fan of him. He's like one of my least favorite characters in the series. And this is why. It's because I find him cringe. He's super cringy. I don't hate him. Let me just say that. It's just, if you were to give me like all the characters that we see in Dandadan, including characters that we haven't met yet in the anime, Jiji's like on the lower tier list of characters that I enjoy. There's way more other characters that I like more than him. So yeah, he's basically doing goofy poses and things like that. Momo is asking like why he's here, and Seiko says that he's going to be staying here. He's going to be staying here for a while. And of course, Momo starts getting upset and pissed off. And for anyone that's like wondering if this series is going to go into a love triangle or something like that, this episode should kind of give you a hint of where it's going. If you still can't pick up the clues, I would just say just pay attention to Momo's reactions to everything. That should kind of clue you in on where this is going. So we have a funny moment where Ira basically is wondering what's going on, and then she's like, I got it. Momo is gathering more demons for her army. She's basically preparing an army for when Ragnarok comes. Nakarun's like, what the hell are you talking about? Ira grabs Momo and starts shaking her, says, I know what you're doing, foul demon. The only reason I'm teaming up with you now is because there are aliens after us. But once it's done, we're sworn enemies once again. I'm going to leave right now and I'm going to build my own army to defeat you. And then she runs away. It's like, yeah, okay. And then Akarun's like, you know what? I'm going to leave as well. And he kind of starts leaving. And you can tell he like is very dejected. He doesn't like the fact that Momo's first crush is going to be living with her. And Momo can kind of take the clues that something's wrong. She stops Akarun and she starts doing these weird gestures with her hands and stuff. And Akarun's like, what does that mean? And Momo explains, see you tomorrow. It's your turn to say it now. He's like, oh, we have turns? So yeah, basically in her head, every time they see each other, like they're going to switch off on who says see you tomorrow. And he just says it back, but he says it kind of like weakly. Like he doesn't seem all that enthusiastic about it, and he walks away. And then when you look at Momo, you can see that she's very dejected at his response. And then when we cut to a little bit later, they're eating food and stuff. And throughout this entire like moment from Jiji's first interaction to here, we get this funny gag with Jiji and Seiko, where Jiji keeps calling Seiko awesome. Like she says, oh, you're still as good looking as always, Seiko. You're awesome, Seiko. Wow, you make such lovely food, Seiko. And Seiko basically calls him a genius every single time. And Momo's like pissed off. She's upset. She's like, why didn't anyone ask me first if he can stay here? Why doesn't he stay with his relatives? Seiko basically explains that, Jiji's staying here because his parents are in the hospital. As for why he can't stay with his relatives, where's your like good Samaritan values, Momo, basically. And Momo's just like, he's just totally buttering you up and you're falling for his charms. And Seiko says, no, I'm not. Like, my feelings are as hard as a rock. No one can break through it. And Jiji's just like, lovely rice as always, ma'am. And Seiko's just like, wow, you're such a genius, Jiji. I don't know. I think their interactions are just hilarious. But yeah, we see Momo washing dishes. Gigi's helping. Momo's pissed off that he's here. And Jiji apologizes, says that he's sorry for making fun of her all that long ago. And this is like when Momo's questioning if they were ever truly friends. But yeah, Jiji says that his parents bought this house in the middle of the woods. It was kind of secluded. And it looked pretty awesome. Like, it was away from the city. It was pretty big. But then he started feeling that something was wrong. Like even like the toilet and the bathtub, like just something about it was off. And then one day he was walking through the house and he felt this presence. Eventually he saw this figure. He has no idea what this figure was. It looks like some kind of weird spirit. I will say that I'm kind of upset we don't get to get a good look at it here. You do in the manga, and in the manga it's kind of terrifying in a very like weird way. I'm not going to say what this creature is, but yeah, he sees this spirit. And he tried to tell his parents about it, and eventually his parents contacted like 5 different exorcists and other people that can like cleanse the area. And out of the 5, 3 of them ended up taking their own lives. And then not long after, his parents were hospitalized, and now he's here. And he heard that the only person that would be able to help him would be Seiko. And Momo's like, yeah, if anyone can clean up this mess, it would be Grandma. Seiko says, yeah, I'm not doing that. My powers only work in this city, so I would be useless outside the city. So this is something that you're going to have to take care of on your own. Think about it. Like Jiji wasn't able to see spirits, now he can. Maybe the golden ball is involved in this in some way. And then we cut to the next day where Jiji gets introduced to Momo's class as a new student. He does his cringe dances and poses and stuff like that, and everybody gets charmed by it, including Momo's friends. And Momo's just completely annoyed and done with all this. And then we have this moment that's, I think it's kind of messed up on Gigi's part, where basically the teacher's like, why don't you go sit next to Miss Ayase since your families are close or something. Since you seem to be like relatives or something like that. I forget the exact wording. And Jiji says, we're not relatives and we're not just friends. We're actually lovers and our family are totes okay with it. And I'm like, why would you say that? That's not true. Why would you start spreading rumors like that? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being overly sensitive, but I felt like that was kind of a really dick thing for Jiji to say. Like, Gigi's always like one of those where he's constantly flirting with people, but in a like overly comical way. And he's doing cringy poses and all this stuff and cracking jokes and stuff. But this seems like a little bit overboard for a joke to tell an entire classroom that you and Momo are lovers when you haven't seen each other in years. But Momo starts getting pissed off at Jiji for that and saying that that's not true. And Momo's friends, who have been charmed by Jiji, actually step in between Jiji and Momo and tell Jiji to back off and that Momo's already taken and she already has a boyfriend and his name is Akaron. And if you pay attention, you'll notice that Momo says nothing about this. She doesn't say, no, you're wrong, or disagree with her friend or anything like that. Just throwing that out there. Speaking of Akaron, we cut back to him in his class with his face in his book. And he's basically really upset. He's very depressed. He's very worried. He believes that if Momo and Jiji are living together, eventually they're going to become closer. They might even start dating. She'll even start taking up his activities and his hobbies. And then she won't be interested in the occult anymore. And then she'll have no more reason to ever talk to him again. And so we see Akaron. And during lunch, he takes his weights out to the back of the school and he starts doing his exercises. And he's basically just trying to burn up all the energy and trying to take his mind off things. And that's when Momo shows up. And Akaron's like, oh, did you already have lunch already? And she says, no, I'm going to eat here with you. And she even says, hey, how are you going to be able to exercise and eat at the same time? Do you want me to feed you? And of course, Akaron is embarrassed, but he says, well, if you want to. And before anything can happen, Jiji shows up and Momo's annoyed that he's here and assume that he would be eating with, some of the other girls. And then Jiji shows like this yogurt flavored milk that apparently Momo really likes. And Momo gets hyped up about it. And Akaron thinks that basically Momo is starting to get charmed by Jiji and he starts leaving. And he basically says, like, I'm not going to I'm not gonna bother fighting. You know, there's no way I'm gonna be able to win. And so he's down in the dumps. And then that's when this atomical model shows up and starts sprinting at at Akira. And this is why I love Dandadan. Is because we have a moment where like one of our characters is depressed that the girl he's crushing on is going to be wooed by another guy. And then all of a sudden we have some weird atomical model sprinting at him while yelling that he's never going to give up. Like what the hell is the mangaka smoking when he came up with this? But yeah, the model starts running. Akarun thinks it's chasing after him, so he starts running towards Momo and starts yelling at Miss Ayase that they have trouble. And then the atomical model actually shoves Akarun away and keeps sprinting past him. And Momo tries to stop him when Jiji like tackles her to the floor, and the model starts running away. And Momo is like hitting on Jiji and yelling at him to let go of her so she can go after the model. But he's like, "No, I'll protect you. You're safe here with me." Kind of annoying. But she's able to use her psychic powers to grab onto the model, but the model refuses to give up. Like he's like, "I'm not going to give up. No one's going to stop me." And so he keeps sprinting anyways. And because Momo's holding onto him with her psychic powers, she gets dragged along with it. And Jiji gets dragged along with her because Gigi's still holding on to her. And so we have a moment where Akarun sees them leaving the school, and he's like, "I'm not going to be able to catch up in this form." So he turns into his Turbo Granny phase. And we have a moment where he's about to like sprint after them. When he looks down, he notices his shoes and socks and weights kind of like in disarray on the floor. And then we cut to his shoes being placed safely by the school gate with his socks rolled up and his weights on top. I just thought it was kind of funny that he actually took the time to put everything away before he chased after everybody. But once again, we get the William Tell Overture song as we get this chase scene. And I'm so glad to have it come back because I freaking love that song. And you can actually find it on YouTube. It's called William Hell Overture. But yeah, great song. We just have a chase scene where the atomical figure is running. I'm just going to refer to him by his name because we get his name later on. His name is Taru. Having to call him atomical model all the time is just going to be annoying. So this is Taru. Taru is the atomical model. And so we just have Taru running through the city. And we have Momo being dragged along with him as well as Jiji while Akarun is chasing after them. And I'm just wondering what's going through the minds of everybody else in this city because nobody else is seeing these spirits. When they see Akarun, they just see this barefooted nerdy kid running through the street. I wonder what they see when it comes to Momo and Jiji. Do they just see them flying in the air? Like that's got to be very weird. But yeah, eventually Akarun is able to grab Momo and pull her and Jiji aside just before a bus is about to hit them. And they continue their chase. Momo's still holding on to Taru. And we get a moment where all three of them are able to like pull Taru to a stop. And he's just yelling at the top of his lungs, like, "You won't stop me. I'm never going to give up. Never." And he shatters himself into pieces. And I thought this was like very cool. Like just the way it looked when he shattered himself. And then he morphs himself back together again. Him shattering himself shocks Momo enough for her to drop her psychic powers. Then he merges himself back together again and continues to sprint. And now that Momo's no longer holding on to him, he disappears. And they're like, "Okay, well, what are we going to do now?" And that's when Momo starts punching her palm. And every time she does, they hear Taru screaming. And so they follow the screams and they're able to find Taru on the floor in a junkyard. And basically, Akarun's like, "What the hell happened? Like, how were you able to find him?" And we have this like moment where Momo just has like this shit-eating grin on her face as she explains that when Taru exploded himself into tiny pieces, she had used her powers to grab onto his heart. And so even when he merged together, his heart was gone because she had it. And she figured, well, the heart is a part of him. So if I pound the heart, it'll hurt him and he'll scream. And then we'll just follow his screams. And Akira was like, "Damn, that's messed up." But it worked. Taru was once again saying, like, "You're not going to stop me." And Momo was just like, "Hey, like, we're not going to eat you or anything. You can calm down. I'll give you your heart back if you promise not to run away again." And then that's when we hear this female voice. And this seems to snap Taru, and he like gathers himself on his feet and he rushes into the garbage pile. And the female voice is telling him, like, "Taru, like, why are you doing this? Just let me go." And Taru is like, "Never, I'll never let you go." And he ends up pulling out Hannah. And Hannah is a female atomical model. And it turns out that Ikana was the old model, and now Taru is like the new updated version. So the school no longer needed Hana, so they tossed her away. But Taru is in love with Hana, and Hana is in love with Taru, and he couldn't bear to be separated from her. And he basically explains that the world was black until you came into my life. And then it felt like I could see color for the first time. Just being around you has made life more enjoyable. And as he's saying this, we get a close-up of Okarun, and Okarun gets flashes of how his life was before Momo came into the picture. And basically, Okarun is, like, the words are hitting him that Taru is saying, because he's in the same boat. He also felt like his world was this kind of dark and gloomy until Momo came into the picture. And ever since then, his life has been better. His life, he's seeing colors, not literally, but you get what I'm saying. Taru is telling Hana, like, I'm never going to give up on you. I'll fight for you no matter what. I'm going to do whatever I can for us to be together. And this is what clicks into Okarun's mind. He finally realizes, you know what? I can't be beating myself up. If I like Momo, I got to go after her, and I got to make sure that no one gets in our way. Not in a, like, evil sense, but in a, like, I'm not going to give up just because someone else might start showing feelings or whatever. So this is the point where we know for 100% sure that Okarun is in love with Momo, and this is when he basically is like, all right, from here on out, I'm going to win her over. And once again, I will just say, if you watch this episode, just pay attention to Momo's reactions to everything, and you can kind of see where this is going to be going. So yeah, that's the end of episode 11. I like this. I thought this was good. It was mostly slice of life until like the very end with Taru showing up, and I loved how basically the entire subplot of Taru is that he's the motivator for Okarun to not give up on his feelings for Momo. It's like it seems like just a regular shoujo like romance situation, and then all of a sudden you have an animated atomical correct model showing up who's in love with another atomical model, and that's what gets our hero to realize that, you know, he's got to fight for his love. I just think it's crazy. I love the interaction with Jiji and Seiko, where Jiji's constantly complimenting Seiko, and Seiko's like, you're such a genius, Jiji. And it's just this little character trait that I absolutely love from Seiko, because if you remember, she did the same thing with Ira, when Ira was saying that Seiko is too young and too beautiful to be Momo's grandmother, and Seiko immediately joined Team Ira and was like, yeah, Momo's a demon, I hope you defeat her. I just love that any little compliment to Seiko will basically win you her favor. But yeah, I just love how she keeps calling Jiji a genius, even though he's obviously not. He's basically a male bimbo. To quote Seinfeld, he's a himbo. And he's kind of cringe. And for anyone who's thinking he's going to get better in terms of his like crazy poses and things like that, nah, that's pretty much his shtick. He's going to keep that going throughout the entire series. But then again, if you look at it, like everyone has kind of like a screw loose. I would say maybe Okarun seems to be the most normal-ish person when it comes to like their personality. I mean, Momo as well, except for her whole shtick with the Ken Takakura name and her freaking out whenever she hears that name. Other than that, though, I mean, you look at Seiko and just her goofiness, Turbo Granny and her tsundere-ness. You have Ira, who believes she's the chosen one from heaven, sent here to fight off all the demons and save the earth from Ragnarok. Jiji with his cringiness. Like, everybody's just freaking weird. And I love this series for it. But with all that said, I'm wondering how the hell they're gonna end this season. Because right now, we're in the Curse House arc. And the Curse House arc ends with chapter 50, I think. This episode ended on chapter 30, which means that there's gonna be 20 chapters left in the Curse House arc. And there is no way we are going to get 20 chapters worth of content in one episode. Dandadan seems to be doing like a whole 3 to 4 chapters per episode. I'm wondering, like, are they going to end it with chapter 33? That would be kind of weird, especially when you see the previews for the next episode. I think we're going to end it with chapter 34, which means that we are going to get the hot spring moment. And I'm very much wondering how people are going to react to that. Because the hot spring moment can be a bit uncomfortable. It's going to be like episode 1. So I know some people were uncomfortable with episode 1. We're going to get a moment somewhat like that. Not in terms of we're going to get like a repeat of that, but more in the sense that it's going to be uncomfortable like that moment. So if episode 1 made you uncomfortable, the next episode is going to most likely make you uncomfortable as well when we get to that moment. And if you can get through episode 1, you're going to be able to get through this one just fine. In my opinion, it wasn't as bad as episode 1, but it's still one of those moments that when it comes to Dandadan, there's basically 2 moments that stand out that could put people off from the series. One of them is chapter 1, and the other one is chapter 34. If you can get through both of those chapters, it's pretty much smooth sailing for at least as caught up as we are now. So yeah, I know I'm being very vague, but I don't want to like be spoiling anything for anime only watchers. I guess I just want to prep those of you who only watch the anime and don't read the manga that there is going to be like an uncomfortable moment in the next episode. If you are okay with getting through episode 1, you're going to be okay with this. If episode 1 made you a bit uncomfortable, then the next episode is going to make you a bit uncomfortable. So yeah, I think basically the next episode is going to end with chapter 34, because 34 has a interesting cliffhanger that we can end the season on. It is going to be like a big cliffhanger. There's not going to be any closure in the sense of, like the end of an arc to end the season. We're going to be stopping like not even in the middle of an arc, third of the way into an arc. We're going to be stopping the season. So there's most likely going to be a huge cliffhanger. And then you got to wait for season 2 to figure out what happens afterwards, unless you want to go read the manga. I'm kind of rambling. I don't want to be like spoiling anything. I'm just kind of thinking about where it's going to go. So yeah, episode 11. I liked it. I thought it was good. I'm glad that they brought William Tell's Overture back, and I'm excited to see how they're going to end the season. My guess is that they're going to end it with chapter 34. I guess we'll see if I'm correct or not. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.